let's go ahead and start, if we may, with the Vols that were a part of the decade of dysfunction, and that specifically harkens back to Trey Smith. And Trey Smith is a fantastic player. He was fantastic at Tennessee. He had the blood clot issue. Other than that, he's probably a 2 or 3 time All SEC performer. I don't think there's any question. But what I want to ask is, what Vols were underutilized, or at least uh, didn't shine as they would have had they been a part of a better era of Tennessee football. So he is certainly one of them. It's brought to you by Guardian Investment Advisors. Guardian Investment Advisors, thanks to the fact that we can do video sharing like this right here, you can get the absolute best financial advice from Guardian Investment Advisors, GIAplantoday.com, GIAplantoday.com. Check them out. They'll show you where to put your money and why. So Trey Smith, certainly one of those. And I say this with no hesitancy, but also some reverence. I think he could have started on some of the absolute best offensive lines in Tennessee football history. He is remembered as a diamond in the rough because of what Tennessee went through in the 2000s. How good do you think Trey Smith would have been regarded had it not been for the blood clots and had it not been for the fact that he played on a team that had a whole lot of issues? And then we'll get to some other balls as well.
Yeah, if he's in any other era, we're talking All-American. Let's not forget, he started every game as a true freshman on the worst team in Tennessee football history, which was the 2017 team, the most mismanaged, most pathetically run team in history, the team where Butch Jones just straight up melted down under pressure and would make up lies to the media like, my player wasn't injured from a fight, he fell on a helmet, and that's how he got stitches. But so we're talking about that level of pathetic coaching that Trey Smith was stuck under. One of the reasons that held him back, it wasn't just the blood clots. People forget this. In 2018, Jeremy Pruitt came in, and because of lack of depth at left tackle, Trey Smith was forced to move over to left tackle, which Trey Smith is not a natural left tackle. He's a natural guard, as everybody knows. And he was still en route to an all-SEC season before blood clots cut short his season. And so he moves back to guard in 2019 when Darnell Wright and Wanya Morris arrive, and he stayed at guard the next 2 years. But Trey Smith himself, he was the ultimate team player. By the way, blood clots in his lungs, had some health issues, and still chose to come back for his senior season because he made a promise to his late mom that he would graduate college. That's just an amazing story. I would have been the first one to say, go get your money in the NFL.
Well, I would have been the first one to say, don't play football. If that's my son, I would have said, don't play football. Blood clots are a scary thing. Let's keep track of this, live a normal life. But that's just me being overly protective as a dad. And I thought at the time, I was like, and the worst thing, you remember Charles Hathaway? He suffered those in his calves. And that may be a little bit before your time. Do you remember him?
I know of him because I know that loaded Tennessee basketball team that Jerry Green mismanaged in 99, 2000, and I know he was part of that.
Well, he had blood clots in his calves, and I was just like, don't play, because the blood clot medicine can sometimes lead to issues too. So, with athletes that have to be at their elite level, as a dad, I'm just like, just don't play. So diamonds in the rough, Vols in the decade of dominance that are overlooked or didn't get their due because they played on bad teams. Already, no surprise, Travis and Smoky Mountain Red threw out there Alvin Kamara. I don't know of a better example because here's a guy who was, I believe he hit All-Pro a couple of times. And the thing that Alvin Kamara that just blew me away is the fact that he goes to junior college. And what do we always say when you go to junior college? You go to junior college for a reason, correct? There's something
right.
wrong. And so he went to junior college, and then he went to Tennessee. Always had a smile on his face, Caleb. Didn't care that he should have gotten many, many, many more touches than he did. And he saved his tread for the NFL. Never griped about not getting as many touches. Had as good of a attitude as anybody on that team when I thought he was getting the short end of the stick. Alvin Kamara, to me, is number one in that decade of dominance of guys that were diamonds in the rough that would have been stars on other teams and gotten more pub had the team been better.
Yeah, and it was for Kamara, you're right. It was a combination of the team being a disappointment, but also the coaches just grossly underutilizing him. And I think that had a lot to do with, remember, you talk about the politics of Butch Jones trying to inflate recruiting stars for players, and he was his prized possession, his star recruit that helped sell him early at Tennessee was Jalen Hurd, who turned out to not be a quality 5-star kid, not a quality kid, not 5-star quality talent. I want to be fair to him on that. And Butch Jones insisted on Jalen Hurd getting as many or more carries than Kamara. Kamara was better, but 2, Hurd as a power back was not a fit for Butch Jones' system and what he was doing.
Yeah.
But Jones was so committed to that, and it was just a really rough situation. If you guys remember, Hurd transferred out in the middle of 2016, and that's when Kamara really started to shine. But yes, Kamara was just, that's the most standout one. I agree with Smoky Mountain Red. Dobbs bailed out Lyle Jones over and over. He absolutely did, and Kamara was part of that. That Dobbs-Kamara backfield was just unbelievable. By the way, there were a couple of other underutilized stars on that team. Dobbs, one of his go-to receiver was Josh Malone. His other one was Juwan Jennings. And so that's another one you can name. That
some of that couldn't we blame on Juwan, who had maybe rightly so. We always want to side with the coaches, I think, in some of these regards. But he came out to the Vanderbilt week and said, I want to play quarterback, and went on the social media tirade. For whatever reason, if he's at another school that's having success, or at Tennessee in the 90s, there's no question he's an all-SEC top receiver, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I thought San Francisco, by the way, should have put him in at quarterback yesterday after they were down in their third stringer because Juwan Jennings didn't work out.
I thought that too. I was surprised that it was Christian McCaffrey who was the emergency quarterback instead of Juwan Jennings. Who else in that decade of dysfunction do you look back at? And I want to remind everybody, please, if you're on board, hit the like button. It greatly helps us reach more people. And if you'll hit the subscribe button, if you haven't yet, we want to be a part of your day-to-day. We're here with you at 10 o'clock each and every day Eastern, talking Vols and the SEC and making South Carolina fans mad. So as they are very upset with us on our YouTube channel, you can check that out. And today coming up, we'll have visits with Tennessee tight end Jacob Warren and Tennessee offensive lineman Cooper Mays. So looking forward to that. So who else do you look at? I would say to some extent, even though he had success, but he wasn't successful each and every season. Josh Dobbs falls somewhere in that category in my mind. I think if he plays at another time with a better team, he's more of a standout quarterback. But you like Josh Dobbs' career quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I've said 2016, Josh Dobbs is the second most productive season in Tennessee football history for a quarterback, only to Peyton Manning's 1997 season. That's pretty good company to be in. Even Hendon Hooker's last 2 seasons, the Heisman campaign season this past year, didn't match Dobbs' totals. Skewed because Hooker did get hurt in the third to last game of the year, but it still stands. And I think that Dobbs, Dobbs to me, the team success was underutilized with a quarterback like Dobbs, if that makes sense. But Dobbs himself, I would say, he was a top 4-round draft pick. He got to start an NFL game. And Dobbs was never, to me, when I watched him, he was never an NFL caliber quarterback, if I'm going to be honest. So it's hard for me to say that he was kind of a diamond in the rough. I think with quarterbacks, a lot of it's intangibles. And I think Josh Dobbs has the best. Tennessee's been very blessed, as we talked about a few weeks ago, with 2 quarterbacks in Hendon Hooker and Josh Dobbs recently that have two of the best intangibles of any quarterbacks in school history, particularly when they come on the heels of a Vol that we might consider underutilized, but I don't know if we're going to agree on it, which is Tyler Bray, who I think had the absolute worst intangibles ever in the history of quarterback play at Tennessee football.
I've never heard of a quarterback, and it's going to lead us into Stetson Bennett. I've never heard of a quarterback getting in trouble twice in college at Tennessee. That's typically a leadership position. You don't see that happen. So I don't know if he fits into the underutilized or not, but the guy has just a massive amount of talent. Did you mention Derrick Rogers?
I did not. I just thought mainly because Derrick himself was kicked off the team, but he did lead the SEC in receiving in 2011, I believe. But I think that was more that Tennessee just had no weapons and was throwing him the ball all the time. And so I don't know if Derrick Rogers. I don't know how I feel about Derrick Rogers on that, because again, I think that he a lot of that he did to himself, if that makes sense.
So during some of this time, I was gallivanting from 2010 to 2020, covering prospects for ESPN of all schools, not just Tennessee. So you have a great grasp on this. And what other diamonds in the rough were there? And if you want to get on the message board, go ahead and share those with us as well. What other diamonds in the rough were out there that didn't reach their full potential or publicity because of the fact that the team wasn't good? Travis said Eric Berry's brothers always seem to not get a fair shake. What are your thoughts on that?
I disagree. Evan Berry was an All-American kick returner at Tennessee because Butch Jones, to his credit, emphasized special teams. And we watched Evan Berry play safety. He couldn't get the nuances down as safety. He was just a kick returner. That was all he was. It was like Leonard Scott, by the way, back in the day. Remember when they tried to plug him in at receiver and he couldn't do anything but just return kicks? That was literally all Leonard Scott could do.
And get wide open. I think I told you before, if they played with a javelin instead of a football, he'd be great.
Yes, that's true.
It would just stick right to him, and he'd never drop a pass.
Oh, so he's like, the Replacements. Remember the Replacements movie? The one guy that was really, really fast but couldn't catch, and they put all the stickums on his hand.
Oh, are we talking about the Keanu Reeves movie?
Yeah, the Keanu Reeves movie.
You know, that's roughly based on Tony Robinson.
Yeah, I do actually.
I like to see if I can surprise you with my old age every once in a while.
But the funny part is Tony Robinson didn't throw any touchdown passes in that game Washington won in 1986 or 87, I think.
No, but he threw a moon ball, because I'm a Cowboys fan. He threw a moon ball that was the receivers knocked out of bounds at about the 6, which said, and I swear Tony can say that he tried to hit that guy in stride. That was just throw it up, chuck it, pray for something to happen. It was. But not to get too off topic, because I do want to get to Stetson Bennett. But lastly, any other diamonds in the rough that got overshadowed by a poor performance by the Vols in the 2010s?
Yes, two key ones. Both defensive backs. Justin Coleman, who's still in the NFL, by the way. He was the highest paid nickel in the NFL for a hot minute. And he was out for the year this year, but Emmanuel Mosley also labored on that 2017 team. Was not drafted. A lot of undrafted Vols the last 12, 13 years that have made it. Wasn't drafted. Worked his way to becoming a starting cornerback for San Francisco the first year they made the Super Bowl. And that he's got a great career ahead of him still. His best years are ahead of him in the NFL. And he turned out to be a better cornerback than Richard Sherman when Sherman was in San Francisco. So watch out for Emmanuel Mosley to even further overachieve. Just approaching the decade, by the way, still in the NFL, but did play for Lane Kiffin. The greatest long snapper in history played for Tennessee, Morgan Cox. A Pro Bowl long snapper again. I mean, guys, Tennessee was punter you? Are they long snapper you? Are they special teams you?
No, they're punter you to some extent.